And actually just saying after I've done, oh, what, better than what some people have for dinner, but it took me no time at all. For lunch, healthy as well. I mean, the only thing that you could probably say is that unhealthy, besides the bread, I don't know, maybe the truffle oil? I don't know. It's healthy anyway. My dog had the same. So my dog has his breakfast. He just had 2 courses for lunch. And as for these wankers of people that were like about friends and so forth, I cut everybody out of my life since 2015 for a reason. You see, when people involve themselves, and anyone who's a friend of mine would know, yeah, unless Justin tells you to specifically do something for him, or he will ask you what he specifically wants you to help with, you wouldn't get involved in his life because he's an asshole. If you cross him, he's going to cross you back and involve himself in your life, and you don't want that. That's exactly. Like, I didn't like the fact that I was lied about in 2015 and it continued. 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. So everybody in my life got dealt with. I mean, I had people that were messaging my mother back. And I'm like, why are you contacting anybody else in this world except for me? If you're supposed to be a friend of mine, then why are you in contact with anybody else except for me? I don't give a shit if my ex-partner called you. I don't give a shit if my mother called you. I don't give a shit if my fucking sister called you. I'll call you and specifically tell you what I need. When I call you and I'll say, I've just been lied about, here's the facts, even if you don't know it or not. Now I need my credibility restored, and you don't do that, and you're going off your own little tangent with bullshit, yeah, then see ya. It's the same shit that went on with my high school. So I find this weird because I never had a problem with people from my high school, and my mother started contacting people. And I'm like, okay, anyone that knows my mother wouldn't know me because people who I knew from my high school wouldn't contact my mother back. Every single person that knew me from high school knew me as Justin Fleming, my actual name. People who knew me through my mother would know me what my mother was telling people like Justin Rackley, which is her second husband's name. So every single person who actually knew me, like Rebecca Munro or who I was friends with, Shane Hutt knew me as Justin Fleming, or Shane Hutt used to call me Jay. So did Alan Tung. Alan Tung wasn't at my high school, but I knew him from doing 2 years at a different primary school after my mum moved. Alan Tung, who used to play for Canberra Raiders. When I first moved from Sydney, he was one of my closest friends. And he was. He went to my half-sister's funeral. Mrs. and Mr. Tung. Remember them well, and his brother Paul Tung. Never had any problems with Alan. I'm sure he would remember what a wanker my stepfather was. Alan was such a sweetheart. I went to different... So we moved from Sydney. I was at St. Aidan's in Rooty Hill. And in April 1989, we moved. And down the road from where my mother brought was a school. And my mum said, we'll just go to school there to make friends. And I did. I made friends straight away. Alan Tung. Nicest guy I'd ever meet. And I haven't seen him since 1992. Basically, went to different high schools. He went to Farrell High School and I went to O'Leary Rosewood College. So that's true. So, and Shane Hutty, but they knew me as Jay. They knew me as Justin Fleming, my dad's name, because if anyone ever called me, if anyone knew me and they instantly made that mistake of calling me my stepfather's last name, they would get it straight away from me and say, no, my last name's Fleming. My mother just remarried before moving here. My name's Fleming. My mother has a different last name because she's just remarried. And they would get it straight away. So everybody who actually knew me as Fleming. And they did. Why would I be known as anything else? I wasn't going to entertain my mother's bullshit. So anyway, people from the high school, Ainsley and Gemma Bartlett. I never had trouble with anyone there. And here's the thing. When my mother started dragging people in who didn't actually know me, I had people who knew other people from my high school who thought it was me. It's like, yeah, these people clearly don't know me, Carol, who you're involving. But you're involving them. And anyone who actually did know me wouldn't be talking to you. And seriously, anybody who knew me from my high school, Beck Munro, Beck Munro actually saw me when I was briefly in Armidale. So I went back and I was studying at Johnson Street, TAFE College Design in 1997. And I went to Armidale briefly. Back in those days, design and art was really good in New England area. And it was. Music, design, art, anything like that. So... there was, I was in Sydney and I was like, I'll duck up there. It wasn't easy for me just to duck up to a different area. But I've been doing that my entire life. Like, I was so independent. When my mum moved, it became so easy to just move around and duck from one area to another. Wasn't a big deal for me. But yeah. So anyway, I did. Beck Munro saw me. She came to see me when I was in Armidale briefly. My sister was going to Armidale University, so I was briefly there when she was at Armidale University. Beck Munro, I think maybe Gemma Bartlett was with Beck Munro when she came and saw me. I think I was in McMahon Avenue Street, something like this. Anyway, and someone else from high school. So I did keep in touch briefly. The only thing this is the weird thing, I'm going to stop doing these videos of repeating myself because it's getting a bit ridiculous. There were some stories about why I didn't keep in touch with people from high school. Well, the truth is I'm not from the area I went to high school. My mother moved there with her second husband and I went back home to Sydney. And different to the way millennials think or Y generation, we never had social media and mobile phones. So if you only ever had their parents' address or one number and people move or so forth and their life changes, they go to different areas and go to university, you lose contact, especially if you're not from the area. And I wasn't from the area. Where I went to high school, I wasn't from the area. I was barely there for 6 years, and the entire time I was there for the 6 years, predominantly most of my leisure life was spent back home in Sydney. Every single school holiday except for October, I was back home in Sydney, and almost every second weekend I was back home in Sydney, so I didn't lay down foundations or roots in the area. So the facts are the facts. It's not this big sinister thing that was brought up in the last 9 years, which I think is insane. I had a good little network of friends that I had when I was briefly there, but the facts are the facts. I was briefly there for 6 years. I don't see the big deal about it, and this has been getting rehashed over and over again by people in the last 9 years since I got the green card to America as well, and it's like, this makes no sense. There's a logical explanation, and as for people in Sydney that I cut out of my life, well, I cut them out. I mean, I had a really great group of friends back in the suburbs of Sydney that when I moved back into the city that I lost contact with. Like in the year 2000, there was Michael Rankins, who's from West, I think it was West Pennant Hills it was from actually. Or no, Balcombe Hills. Michael Rankins, myself and another friend of mine, Azif, from Parramatta guys. We helped Rachel Simmons move from Parramatta to Blacktown down the road from where my nan and pop's house was, and then she moved into Bondi, and her brother Wesley stayed in her place in Blacktown. So this is back in the year 2000 because I was back home living in the suburbs of Sydney then. So it was Michael Rankins, who's from Balcombe Hills, I think, from memory. A good friendship there. Azif from Parramatta, good friendship there. Myself, and he's from the western suburbs of Sydney as well. And we actually were helping Rachel Simmons, who ended up living most of her life now in Bondi, but she was moving from Parramatta in the year 2000 to Blacktown, just down the road from where my nan's place was. So we helped her move in, and then her brother Wesley was living with her. I spent heaps of time with Rachel in Bondi. And anyway, Wesley stayed living there in Blacktown, and Rachel moved back into the city in Bondi. I remember when I was living in Manly, she's always like, you've got to move over the east side. Like, you're stuck in Manly because, catching up with friends. But yeah, that's all true. And that was a good group of friends there that I had. But you lose touch. Like, this is one thing that my mother doesn't get through her head. It's like, you grow, you move on, you lose touch with people. That's how things are. And if you have things happen to you in life, like I've had things happen to me in life, you end up losing a lot of friends. And then the last 9 years was the end of it for me. I was like, no, I'm cutting everything out and redoing everything. Because I've had people come in where they're not friends, they're acquaintances, or people that come into my life which were just, passing through. Yeah. So anyway, leave it at that. I've explained that so much in the last 9 years. Sure have you. It's my glasses. And so I've already explained that so much in the last 9 years. It's like, yeah, but I cut people out of my life for a good reason. This is what just happened in the last 9 years, where I was lied about in 2015. The last thing I want is to be dealing with people that I'm already trying, when I'm just like, yeah, I just need a solicitor. Let me deal with a solicitor so I can get these bullshit corrected, and then I'll go from there. Leave that video there so I can have my lunch before it cools. And